So in 2020, a handful of teams came out and said that they were going to change their uniforms, and some teams ended up making slight changes to their current uniforms, such as the Browns, while other teams made huge changes like the Falcons. And as we are creatures of habit, these new uniform reveals really haven't gone over well in many cases. However, in most cases, I think that people are overreacting. There have been much worse. So today, I'm going to prove that to you. But before we get started, I wanted to take some time to thank you all so much for your support on these list videos. I'm going to continue pumping them out one by one for you. And hey, if this video hits 2,000 likes, I will do each team's best uniform. I also want to quickly mention that only a small percentage of the people who watch my videos are actually subscribed. So if you do end up enjoying this video and haven't done so already, please do consider subscribing for daily NFL football videos. And with that being said, let's get started. Kicking things off in the NFC North, the Packers' worst uniform is their throwback uniforms from 1929. Simply put, I don't like the navy blue and yellow combo whatsoever. These colors really don't mesh well together, and the circle around the numbers look really out of place. The Vikings' worst uniform is their purple on purple uniforms from 2007. Now, the Vikings recently got the purple on purple look correct, but their first attempt in 2007 was just painful to look at. The white accents are really what ruined it. The Bears' worst uniform is their throwback uniforms from the 1920s. Fact is, stripes never look good on, anything, let alone going down an entire football jersey. It just looks really off, and on top of that, it feels like they got to a point where they didn't know how to include the player numbers, so they just plopped them on the right shoulder. And on top of this, these colors are just I'm glad that they only wore these monstrosities for 1 year. And the Lions' worst uniform is their black alternates from 2007. There's just way too much going on here. Black, blue, gray, white, just way too many colors that clash very poorly with one another. I'd actually really like to see them try and get the black alternate right, though, because I think that black would go really well with their blue, but it's just way too much on the eyes. Moving on to the AFC North, the Browns' worst uniform is their orange jerseys from the early 2000s. They are just far too vibrant, and really, they just don't look good. Then you compound this with the white pants and it's a combination made in hell. The Ravens' worst uniform is their alternate with gold pants from 2015. Now, the Ravens have always had really good uniforms. Purple on black, purple on purple, black on black, the gold accents, everything works. It's always looked good until they took the gold accents and made them the color of the pants. And what the hell were they thinking? They immediately discontinued them, which is good, but come on. The Steelers' worst uniforms are their Bumblebee uniforms from 2012. And you remember what I said about stripes? Yeah, this may be the best example of the fact that they don't work. This looks absolutely horrendous, and those boxed-in numbers really do not help. This is one of the worst uniforms in the league's entire history. And the Bengals' worst uniforms are their original uniforms from 1968. Now, Paul Brown, the co-founder, first coach, and the namesake for the Browns, founded the Bengals in 1967 after being ousted by the Browns. And when he created the team, he very obviously took inspiration from the Browns. Literally the only difference between the uniforms is the skinny Bengals text placed on the helmets. Continuing down the list, moving into the NFC East, the Eagles' worst uniforms are their throwback uniforms from 1934, and really, I don't think I need to elaborate much on why these are just awful. The bright blue, the yellow combo, it's atrocious, and I don't know who the hell thought this was a good idea. The Cowboys' worst uniforms are their throwback uniforms from the 1960s. Now, it really comes down to the fact that the different colored shoulders with the star matched onto them just look terrible, both on the home and away version, the away version especially. The Cowboys have always had the uniform game locked down, but this is awful. The Redskins' worst uniforms are their throwback uniforms from 1949. Now, I really like this desaturated shade of red a lot, and the goldish numbers look really cool. The pants, on the other hand, do not look really cool whatsoever, and the gold helmet just, it does not work. Now, they do have an alternate version where they wear their modern helmets, but the red of the helmets is different from the red on the jersey, and it's just a clusterfuck. And the Giants' worst uniforms are their red jersey alternates from the early 2000s. Now, the Giants are another team that have always had a really good uniform, but when they tried to take the red accent color and make it their primary color, it did not work at all. That red is a great accent color, but it does not work as a primary color at all. Moving on to the AFC East, the Patriots' worst uniforms are their primary uniforms from 1995. Much like the Cowboys, the Flying Elvis matched onto a shoulder does not work. As simple as that. The Bills' worst uniforms are their black uniforms from the early 2000s, and I'm not kidding when I say that these are easily some of the worst uniforms I've ever seen. I mean, from black on black with red and blue accents to the numbers to the red helmets, those goddamn red helmets. This uniform has a grand total of 0 redeeming qualities. The Jets' worst uniforms are their New York Titans throwbacks from 1962. Now, much like the Packers, these uniforms have an awful color combination. However, I think the Jets version is actually worse because the colors look darker, which only makes the combination even worse than it was on the Packers uniforms. And the Dolphins' worst uniforms are their all-orange color rush from 2016. Now, the Dolphins took a page out of the Buccaneers book, but they took it to a whole new extreme in 2016 with an all-orange color rush, and this is just awful. It is way, way too bright, and that shade of orange should never be used as more than an accent color. Continuing down the list, in the NFC South, the Saints' worst uniforms are their gold jersey alternates from 2002. Look, gold looks good as an accent color and nothing more. I've always disliked the gold pants, but the gold jerseys are just on another level. I'm very glad they aborted this abomination back in 2002, and as a Saints fan, I hope we never see it come back. The Falcons' worst uniforms are their new ones. These new Falcons uniforms look like they belong in an arena football league. I love the color combo, but the huge ATL text above the number does not look good at all, and while I get what they're trying to do with the number, the execution is kind of poor. The Buccaneers' worst uniforms are their creamsicle uniforms from the 1970s. Now, there were a ton of people that wanted creamsicle to return for the new uniforms, and I don't understand why. The orange is just way too bright, and combining it with white with red accents just does not go well together at all. And the Panthers' worst uniforms are their current away uniforms. Now, I really like the Panthers uniforms, and seeing as they are a new team relative to the NFL's existence, they really haven't had any bad uniforms, with the exception of their away uniforms. The blue stripes absolutely kill the look and make it unlikable in my opinion. Moving on to the AFC South, the Jaguars' worst uniforms are their gold color rush from 2017. And look, I don't know who the dumbass was that opened MS Paint, selected the paint bucket tool, and covered an entire uniform this color, but whoever did it is artistically challenged in every sense of the word, and this shit is just putrid. The Colts' worst uniforms are their throwbacks from 1955. Now, the blue helmets do not look good, and we've actually seen them worn as part of their throwback uniforms in the past, but in 1955, the Colts had a version of the uniform that included red jerseys, and from the schematic alone, it's terrible. The Texans' worst uniforms are their all-red uniforms from 2010, and simply put, too much of any incredibly vibrant color looks bad. Taking red, one of the most vibrant colors there is, and putting it on an entire uniform just does not look good. It's way too much on the eyes. And the Titans' worst uniforms are their bright blue color rush uniforms from 2015. Now, I always liked the Titans' bright blue colors back in the day, but there comes a point where it's just too much, and the bright blue color rush embodies that cutoff line. Also, the white helmets don't help. Like at all. Continuing down the list, in the NFC West, the 49ers' worst uniforms are their all-black color rush from 2015. Now, I usually like all-black uniforms, but the 49ers just couldn't get it right. You can hardly see the dark red colors, especially when you're colorblind like myself, because they blend in with the black. Luckily, they replaced this all-black color rush with an all-white color rush, which are some of the best uniforms in the league. The Rams' worst uniforms are their throwback uniforms from 1994. I usually really like the Rams' yellowish gold color, but in 1994 they decided to bring back some throwbacks which have yellow as the primary color of the jersey paired with white pants. I like the color shades, but the execution incredibly poor. The Seahawks' worst uniforms are their green alternates from 2009. I absolutely hate lime green, one of the worst colors in the world, but this uniform does not only have lime green as its primary color, it has different colored shoulders and pants as well. I think they got things right with their current uniforms, but these are absolutely abysmal. And the Cardinals' worst uniforms are their black alternates from 2010. Now, the jersey itself is really good, but the white pants ruin the look. I would have loved to see them go all out on the black, kind of like what they did with their current color rush uniforms, because the black pants really complete the look. Moving on to the AFC West, the Chiefs' worst uniforms are their away uniforms. Now, I really like every uniform the Chiefs have worn, but these are my least favorite ones because the red pants, they're a little bit jarring. I definitely prefer the white pants. The Raiders' worst uniforms are their black and gold uniforms from 1962. Now, much like the Chiefs, the Raiders have always had really good uniforms, but my least favorite uniforms are the ones that featured a yellowish gold similar to the Steelers, and even then, it still looks pretty good. The Chargers' worst uniforms are all of their navy blue uniforms. Now, they switched from powder blue to navy blue in 1974 and would only bring back the powder blue as alternates in 2002, and I really do not like that navy blue look. I'm very glad, though, that they pivoted away from it in recent iterations of their uniforms. And rounding out the list, the Broncos' worst uniforms are their throwback uniforms from the 1960s. In 2009, the Broncos wore throwbacks from the early 1960s, and ooh, they were terrible. The yellow on brown combo it does not work. And in terms of color combinations, it doesn't get much worse. And with that said, that is going to just about do it for this video. But before I go, let me ask you, which team do you think has the worst uniforms in the NFL?